So the start of the day, the various panel moderators drew sticks, and I got the long stick, which means I also get to present. A little bit about our story as NCore. All right. So I run NCore, an impact stream of the Nudge Foundation. We started in 2017, largely recognizing the white space that exists in the development sector for very early stage organizations, that there isn't an ecosystem of support. We started in Bangalore, and that was very obvious to us. Right around us, there was so much entrepreneurial buzz. Startups were mushrooming everywhere. You could see the energy flow in meetups, in co-working spaces. There was an angel network supporting very early stage bets, moving on to series of funding subsequently, all the way up to private equity and growth stage funding. For nonprofits, it was a period of starvation. Right? Up to 3 years, a nonprofit really struggles to raise any kind of support, and hence we started up. What we offer to early stage organizations, entrepreneurs that have deeply engaged with a problem, started working on it full time, and have evolved a theory of change on how to go about addressing it. We support them with a seed grant, mentoring by wise people that have walked that path before them, and connects to a downstream ecosystem. And it's roughly built as a series of workshops culminating in a demo day. And that's the end of the incubation program, beyond which, for the top 15–20%, we provide acceleration support for up to 2 years. So that's what NCore does. Today on this topic of building capacity of organizations, I would really like to talk about 3 distinct use cases out of the 50-odd organizations that we've worked with. We see our work largely as in inculcating a certain DNA in these startups, one that helps them to transcend any baggage that the sector might impose on them, right? In just starving an organization, you very quickly teach it to not be audacious. We want them to overcome that barrier. The sector, by giving only OPEX, teaches a nonprofit to not build its own capacity. We want them to overcome that barrier, right? And start addressing these problems with a sense of speed and urgency, to start dreaming big and think about scale very early on. I'd like to walk you through 3 case studies of organizations that used these resources very well and built the capacity they need to solve problems eventually at scale later in their lives. So before that, in this list of 50, roughly 50% have technology at the core of their offering. They're technology-based solutions to age-old problems. For instance, a smartphone app that detects contaminants in water, or a digital platform for tribal folk musicians. Right? And of them, very similar to Tech for Dev that Donald talked about earlier, is Tech for Good. An organization by Rinju, an IIT Madras grad that works with grassroots nonprofits, helping them to leverage technology in their daily work. Suki Brava, an organization working in menstrual hygiene that's grown from 10,000 girls, that was their scale at which they came into incubation, to now working with 160,000 girls in less than a year. The inflection came through technology. And Samagra, that's driving accountability into public systems, making toilets in slums remain clean after they're built out. Very quickly to wrap through how they have leveraged technology as a means to effect first capacity among their customers, then among themselves, and then with the systems that they work in. So Jagrita Mahila Sangathane is a community-based organization of Dalit women, socially oppressed, economically really disadvantaged. Their story starts from a flood that wiped out all records they had, all paper records they had of their donors, that had contributed to digitizing the local school. When Google and Tech for Good went into this Dalit community, the problems were many. And the singular thread that they saw could tie together these various problems into one meaningful solution was to digitize the work of these tribal women, which meant they could now reach out to donors that did not know that they existed. So basically create a website and a digital footprint for their work, use digital marketing and crowdfunding platforms to raise money for their work, get all of this in digital format so that the next flood would not wash them away. For the terracotta toys and jewelry that they made, find markets that are global and thereby unlock the margins on the sale of their product. Across all these interventions, the organization went from being a 30,000 rupees a year organization to becoming a 15 lakh a year organization in just over 6 months. This is a phenomenal story that can be replicated across the country when two things come together: the power of technology and the people that can effectively use it to tie it to realities on ground, make things happen. The second case study is Suki Brava, which started as an intervention in urban slums to remove the taboo around menstrual hygiene. And what this does is it keeps girls in schools longer. It helps women seek employment outside of work. It results in very positive outcomes for the women who otherwise did not have access to safe menstrual health practices. They did all the hard work themselves, running multiple boot camps and hand-holding girls and young women through the behavioral change over a 3-4 month long process. It's deep work and hence only scaled very linearly until the point they introduced the period fellowship. What the fellowship did was change the notion of scale from operating scale to scaling the idea. Each fellow that went through the program then went off to 9 different states all at once and started the program afresh in their own geographies, in their own context. It's now becoming a periodpreneurship. It's almost entrepreneurship incubated through a fellowship program. So Suki Brava grew from the 10,000 girls trajectory to a 160,000 girls trajectory in less than a year. And this could not have happened without binding together all these activities in a common framework, both in mindset as well as in operating processes and a certain structure. And this was enabled not by developing technology, but by just using what exists. A Google Drive and Google Maps, basically the G Suite. Tools like Workplace, they used Slack, which is very similar. And a mindset of sharing, right? An open source mindset which says, if I crack a donor, I'll share with other periodpreneurs how to go about it. If I figure out storytelling which works with my audience effectively, I'll broadcast it, right? So training tools, videos that kind of multiplied the idea to go into 9 different states all at once. The final case study is Samagra, and I'm myself over time, I apologize. But this comes from a realization that building toilets is not enough. Toilets in slums get built and handed over to contractors to maintain every day. It is an 18-month cycle for them to be raised down and rebuilt because they just become so shabby they cannot be used. What Samagra does is drive accountability into this public system. It builds the capacity of the municipality. It shows the councillors, the municipality, which of its contractors are doing the job that they were signed up to do. It puts the power of this transparent data in the hand of the community so that they can hold the municipality accountable for the services that they were entitled to. It basically builds the capacity of an entire public system, and that is transformational, far more than building out just a lot more toilets. It's disrupting a cycle of corruption, lack of accountability, and apathy for what is a very basic human right, the right to a dignified toilet experience. So I'm just so proud of the young men and women that have jumped in to solve these problems. I think building the capacity of the entire impact chain, from your primary customers to the organization to the public systems that operate around us, is very critical. And we're in a very interesting time where cutting-edge technology for first-world use cases coexists with this kind of technology for very basic human needs, solving the problems for the last quartile, the one that had otherwise been left behind. So that's our story. Thank you very much.